Welcome back to Stuff My Therapist Says. I'm your host, Sara Makin, and today we have an amazing guest, Jason Cercone.
What's up, Sara? Glad to be back with you for season 3 of the podcast.
Season 3.
It's becoming a nice little tradition we've got going on here.
It really is. Yeah, and time flies when you're having fun, right? I can't believe it's been 3 seasons.
It's awesome.
It really is.
Congratulations to you for making it 3 seasons. And that's a lot in the podcast space, to be honest. Some people only get a few episodes in and they leave their show before they really have any major breakthroughs. But you've been committed to this, and it keeps getting better and better each and every season.
Exactly. And persistence is so important, not giving up. And when you first start doing something, to know that there's a lot of room for growth and opportunity and learning. And you know, I'm in it for the long haul, you know?
Well, I'm here with you. It's been a good ride so far. Let's keep this going.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's been great. So Jason and I were chit-chatting and just thinking about different ideas for episodes that we could do. And we were thinking, why don't we talk about talking? Talking about communication. Yeah. Because it's so important, so relevant no matter what you do or where you're at. And, you know, having good communication skills can really help you in your personal relationships, you know, in your life, in the business world. It can be wonderful. It can be a wonderful thing, or it can be a terrible thing if you don't have strong communication skills.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of relationships, even in my own life or mine, unravel just because communication fell apart. And it's sad when that happens. I've seen people in my life experience the same thing. And it's something that even someone that could put themselves on a high pedestal of having very strong communication skills still needs to revisit these things and constantly check themselves out to make sure they're doing their part to hold up these relationships and have this type of communication, or else it can go awry. And I mean, it's been talked about a couple times throughout this season of Stuff My Therapist Says. Yeah. If you don't have that type of communication with the other person, or it could be multiple people, it's not pretty. And it's very sad how, like I said, things can get lost, and sometimes it's irreparable, and that's it's not cool.
Definitely not cool, for sure. So working on communication is very important. Starting out, when it comes to communication, what do you think is the most important thing?
Well, I think establishing the fact that, and again, I think, let's start with the professional side of things. Yeah. For me, I think that if you don't have that type of communication in place with a person where they can understand your boundaries, understand when you can be there for them, when you're not going to be available, that can derail communication and derail the relationship almost before the train even leaves the station. Yeah. Because some people will be expecting something of you when you're off the clock, or maybe you're away for the weekend and you're trying to enjoy time with your loved ones, and now someone's in your ear saying, I need this right now, and you have to stop whatever you're doing and get this done. If you don't have strong communication up front and set those boundaries, you're setting yourself up for those types of disasters. Exactly. And it really complicates the other side of your life. If this is in the professional environment, now on the personal side of things, you're getting pulled away. Yeah. And people may look at you differently, and that can affect that long-term relationship. So for sure. I think that's a great jumping off point for where our conversation is going to go today. Oh, yeah. And we'll keep building on it from there.
Yeah, for sure. So communicating your boundaries from the beginning is important, because if not, someone might bulldoze you.
Yeah. It sucks when that happens. Yeah. I think we've all been there and all experienced that to some degree. Yeah. And, you know, to go along with that, I think that overall, if you're not a person that reaches out and makes connections in a powerful way, you need to find a way to do that. Yeah. Because if you're not connecting with somebody to a point to where you can go have a good, healthy back and forth, believe it or not, contrary to what the world tells us, we are allowed to have differing viewpoints.
Really?
It's crazy.
What?
But having the professionalism and just the humanistic part of life to say, okay, you feel this way, I feel this way, let's talk this out. Yeah. Let's find a healthy compromise to where everyone's going to be happy, but we can still move forward in a positive fashion. Yeah. If you can't rise to that level of communication and professionalism, you're going to need to find something else to do in life. Yeah. Because you have to have that type of relationship with the people you're working with, or else the messages get lost. People start to get complacent. They start to get more distant. And again, these are all little unconscious actions that over time compound into a serious issue that can be very difficult to fix in the long run.
For sure. And you don't necessarily want to be surrounded by everyone that looks and sounds and thinks exactly like you do. It's nice to have different types of people around to get different opinions. And especially in the professional setting, if you're surrounded by everyone having the exact same thoughts, you're not going to be able to challenge or push each other to grow.
Right. And that's where the best ideas come from.
Yeah.
Challenging one another, learning somebody else's perspective, and then saying, oh man, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
What if we took some of that and some of what I have to say and we put the two together, and with our powers combined, look what we can achieve.
Yeah.
I think that's how the world was founded. That's how society has come together.
Yeah.
Why we've gotten away from that is beyond me. I think to some degree there are people that are looking outside of social media for how life works.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I know I'm not alone.
Yeah.
But there are some people that will get so entrenched in their views, and when they go on social media and post something, controversial or not, if somebody else disagrees with them, well, they're just the worst person in the world. I can't believe I would ever even talk to you.
Yeah, like how dare you think something differently than how I think?
Yeah.
I definitely did not say that right. That's okay. Like how dare you think something that I don't think or I don't believe? I have someone. I'm going to make this very generic, okay? I know someone who every single morning posts something, and it's like so extreme, so negative.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you wake up in the morning and this is the first thing you think of like posting like the world's ending, or like this is happening, or, you know, that's outrageous, or, I mean, very strong, you know, negative messages like right when you first wake up. Like it's not good to wake up like that. And this is how you're presenting yourself to the world and how you're communicating to the world, and it's just not
and setting the tone for the rest of the day in a very negative way. Like you flip that on its head. I've heard that once you wake up, the first thing you should do is make your bed. So immediately you're feeling a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, so you get
just
the win.
got out of bed, you already got something done.
Yeah.
You already have a win. Now you can proceed with your day and do what you do, and you're looking at things with a much more positive outlook.
Yeah.
But you're right. There are some people that just live in that doom and gloom.
Oh, my. Yeah.
And this is the thing to remember about that, especially in the social media setting. If there is a person that is communicating to the world that they have negative thoughts and everything is against them, they have the same platform we do to say what they want. So if they choose to do that, that's their prerogative. Hit the block button or hit the mute button or whatever it takes to get that person removed. If you feel they're bringing negative energy into your world, you can cease communication with that person. And more than likely, they're not even going to notice it.
Oh, my gosh. Like, no one notices. I mean, I don't want to say no one notices, but I truly believe that most people don't notice. No,
well, because they're more consumed with the people that are feeding into their negativity. And they're continuing to make that message grow and just compound upon itself in a horrible way. Because that's, again, you think of even someone that posts, it's not necessarily negative, but it's very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Controversial or extreme or like clickbaity or...
Well, I think all of those apply, but ultimately what people are looking for is attention or validation.
Yeah.
I've seen people post that just lost this job opportunity. Can't believe that they didn't pick me. What do you want when you do that? You want your community to come to your rescue and validate you and say, oh, yeah, they made the wrong decision. You're the person. You are the one. In my mind, I think about those things. And yeah, I may feel some resentment if I lose an opportunity that I feel that I'm qualified for, but the people went a different direction. But I'm not going to put that on social media and communicate this to the world, this message to the world that I'm down in the dumps. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to get better? How can I do better the next time? Yeah, I'm learning from my mistakes so I can get better. I'll tell the perfect example, and I have no problem telling this story. full transparency, there was a contract opportunity that I applied for. Felt based on what they said they needed, I had everything in and then some. Felt I could help them in tremendous ways.
Yeah.
Sent my information to them, and they got back to me saying, thank you for reaching out to us. We're going to go a different direction.
Yeah. And
I responded and said, thank you for letting me know. Just curious, what am I missing? What do I need to do better the next time around? And they said, well, for a opportunity that has so much emphasis on detail, the fact that you spelled the company name wrong.
Oh.
I was floored. Wow. Because when I'm putting in for these or anything, my attention to detail is typically so keen.
Yeah.
And I missed it there. And I responded and said, thank you for pointing that out. I don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
And I moved on.
Yeah.
But now I know anytime I'm putting in for contract opportunities, I am
careful.
triple, quadruple checking to make sure not just the company name is spelled right, but anything else that could potentially be a flaw.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to build a mindset that allows me to get to that level if I'm constantly using social media to tell the world that somebody else didn't pick me because I suck. I must be terrible. I can't believe this. Or they suck. They are looking at me the wrong way.
Such an absolute way of looking at something. And also, I love what you mentioned of how you communicated with them to get feedback so you can grow.
Exactly. That's something that I feel a lot of people aren't willing to do. And this is where another point in communication that frustrates me is when you are trying to get that feedback, but you can't. Somebody asks for information. They ask for anything. Could be a project, could be additional information on something you're already working on. And then it's just radio silence.
Yeah.
Why aren't we continuing this communication? Why do we close the loop at that point? Especially if it's at a point where let's just use seeking a job opportunity as an example. I know that so many companies now are using technology to determine who they even speak to.
Yeah.
And if I'm sure it's all algorithm based, but if you're not in a certain percentile, they're not even reaching out to you.
Yeah.
And I know they're doing that to save time. But to me, if I'm a person that wants to know and I'm taking the step to ask questions even further, all you need to do is shut me down. Just respond and say, here's why we made the decision that we made, and we're moving on.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people, they feel they share that frustration with me, but some people let it knock them down to a point where they can't get back up. And
it's like the resiliency aspect.
You have to have perseverance in everything that you're doing. But if you are the type of person that might get worn down by the fact that you're not getting any types of responses, that can play evil tricks on your mind.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
And all of that can be eliminated if we all strengthen our communication skills and not be afraid to tell somebody something negative. We've really gotten to a point where, at least this is how I see it, where we don't want to have those hard conversations. If we're not willing to have a hard conversation, man, so much gets lost in translation.
Yeah.
And I think that transcends the professional world. Talk about it in our personal lives too.
Yeah, because the way that you handle your things in a professional manner, it's typically consistent behaviors, right? And consistent thinking and thought patterns we have many times there's really no difference. If someone's flaky from in the professional sense, many times they're flaky their personal lives, and many times people who struggle with communication professionally, they also struggle with it personally, because you still take you regardless of what area you're in.
Yeah.
So you don't stop being you because it's 5 p.m. Eastern time. Last time I checked.
That old mentality of you leave it at the door.
Yeah. Well, you're still you.
Yeah, that's tough. So you're essentially just masking all of these issues that you're having on one element of your communication, and then trying to be effective in another.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. And
it
you've
really
seen
doesn't.
that erode a lot of things from somebody's performance at work or the lives they have with loved ones and family at home, because if they're bringing a lot of that non-communicative emotional baggage from work home with them, it's going to weigh. and they may sit in front of the TV all night and not communicate and spend time with the kids or have a conversation at dinner with their wife or husband.
Like they're distant.
Yeah.
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 Wow. So then what so this makes me think of like when it comes to communication, what to do in what circumstance. Mm-hmm. Because you're talking about sometimes we have to communicate things that are potentially not the most positive in the world.
Right.
And typically what I end up doing is if I know something could be misconstrued or taken the wrong way, I never text it or email it or Slack it. Mm-hmm. That I schedule a time professionally, like to have a conversation with an agenda in advance. Mm-hmm. And following like the hamburger method of like something positive, including the area of opportunity, then finishing it with something positive, and making it very clear. Because sometimes when we have challenging conversations, it's not because there's something 100% wrong with a person or the matter. Sometimes people need to hear feedback about things to learn and to grow. Mm-hmm. So I typically do that, and I never communicate things that could be misconstrued via text message or written in a written format, because sometimes I think my tone is more positive than what it's received as. Mm-hmm. And I actually had a situation with one of my mentors. I sent him this email and he was like, do you see how, like he sent me a long email back, and he was basically saying like the way that he perceived my email was not what I intended it to be at all. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like if he has the guts to say it to me, because like that's what he's there for, is to like make sure that I'm like growing as a leader. So I'm like, darn, like I thought it was so clear and it's not. So I don't even do that anymore. So I highly recommend, if you're listening, if you're having a situation with a colleague or a friend or a loved one, don't text about the negative situation, to have a conversation with them face to face, so they can see like your tone and your body language. Having open body language can also really help too. If you see Jason and I can tell. So Jason's, I don't know if you can see, both of our body language is open and we're both facing each other.
Right.
If you didn't like me, you'd be
arms crossed, fold the other way,
you wouldn't be facing me. Yeah, so that's why having the conversation in person or virtually if you need to can really help, because all of these extra things help to communicate what your intentions are, and can be good. So like your nonverbals are super important. Your nonverbal body language communicates, it's like 77% of the message.
Yeah.
So even if you, like myself, consistently use the wrong words, if you're meeting with someone and you have the open body language, you have the proper tone, your message can come across so much more clear. Mm-hmm. And two, if you notice like you are triggered whenever you read text messages or emails, like it might be a good time to do a check within yourself of seeing like, is this triggering me? Like, how can I work on this trigger? Or is this truly someone who's a jerk? And then that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Some people you just can't get them to be normal functioning human beings. They're just they're set in their ways, and that's life. That's just sometimes how it is.
Yeah, we can only change ourselves and work on ourselves, and we don't have control have control over other people. Although that would make life easier.
No. I mean, speaking of ease, I mean, and that to me, simplifying this as much as possible. I mean, clearly there's a lot of paths you can take.
Yeah.
But to speak to your point about the texting and sending through email and Slack and all of these great technologies that we now have at our disposal, it's all at our fingertips.
Yeah.
So is picking up the phone and calling somebody.
Yeah.
And that's where it can get a little tricky in this world that we live in 2023, as you and I sit and have this conversation today. Some people will look at their phone and say, why is this person calling me? And then they won't answer it. And then they'll just text back, what'd you want?
That's what I do.
Okay, so so you're part of the problem. But
I wish I was kidding, you guys. I'm really not. I hate talking on the phone.
But
then I don't stop.
Well, but
it goes on forever.
The problem with that is, though, if it is something where someone wants to resolve an issue, but knows that it could potentially be read the wrong way through text, if you now switch and conform to that person saying, "What do you want?" and you switch it to text, you're backing down from what you believe is the proper method of resolving this issue.
So then what do you do?
Call me. We need to actually talk about this and not text it.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So if you told me that, Jason, I would call you back.
Well, that's how, because I think the common response to saying what you want is now you're texting out what you were going to say verbally.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is different for everybody, but unconsciously, some people might be thinking, I don't want them to pick up the phone when I call them. I'm going to make the effort, but if they don't, I've done my part to try.
Yeah.
But you honestly have to push beyond somebody's defense mechanism of saying, I don't want to talk on the phone, I'd rather text. I know this about you, Sarah. I'm going to remember. We have issues. I'll just keep calling until you pick up.
Okay, so that's more so if I don't know the phone number, because I get so many calls because I've had the same phone number since I was 13 years old, and I refuse to change it.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think we
overall, if I know the person, I'll answer it.
Well, and that's something where I've had this conversation with people where I feel so much can be accomplished through a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not just about resolving issues. I'm talking about if you're looking to make sales or if you're looking to follow up with somebody, having a phone conversation versus a text or an email exchange can lead to more breakthroughs. But the issue we face is we are in this world to where we don't want to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
We do want to just keep it as simple and do it all through technology. And that's where I look at the fact that I'm trying to almost go old school with this. It's not like I'm cracking open any atoms as I do this.
Yeah.
But to me, I feel we're going to get much further with whatever we need to talk about if we're literally talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel, look, if you're not going to have a full back and forth phone conversation, all of these tools that we have at our disposal have a voice message component built into them now.
Yeah.
At the very least, go to that level and send voice messages to people. It's another way to add another element to your communication, and it also lets your tone come across, because sometimes someone can read a text. And especially, let's bring this into a personal relationship. If it's like a boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband and wife, you're going to read that text how you want to read it.
Yeah.
And if somebody didn't mean any harm in what they said, you're going to read it as something that's either hateful or sarcastic or demeaning. And then that leads to a whole new crop of issues.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to stay on the soapbox of having actual conversations and, again, resolving issues in that capacity. I feel like you can get a lot further.
Yeah. And then that makes me think, too, of how to have a challenging conversation with someone if you can see that the message could get misconstrued. And the way that you do that, it's you follow this formula of I feel blank when you blank.
That's very good.
I feel sad when I call you and you don't answer it, and then you text me, what do you want? I feel stressed when I call you 5 times in a row and you don't answer, and then you don't tell me that you're busy.
Yeah. I think something to keep in mind with what you're saying is that in most cases, not all cases, but people on the other end also want to have that communication because in some way it's adding undue stress to their life too.
Yeah.
So actually being the bigger person, and I tell this story because I just experienced this with my daughter. She's in 7th grade, and we all remember what it was like to be at that time in our lives. Everything is confusing, and things were happening, and we're just like, what is going on? And she had an altercation is probably too strong of a word, but with a girl that was that's a good word for it. Girl that was a friend of hers coming up through elementary school, and they had a little bit of a falling out in 6th grade, and now in 7th grade it's continued, and some things have happened, and she was telling me the story and wondering what she should do. And my daughter is in the mindset of wanting to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you're going to need to be the bigger person and start the conversation.
Yeah.
And just go up to her and say, listen, I'd like to talk. Can we just take a few minutes to talk? Just be that person, because in a lot of ways she's probably thinking it, but not everybody has the strength or the courage to step to the plate.
Yeah, because it can be tough, especially if you're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
It can be stressful.
And once you have that conversation, things slowly can wash away.
Yeah.
Because you can start to find some common ground again. Now, whether she's done this or not, we haven't gotten back to it yet.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure if there's a breakthrough, she's going to probably tell me. This was very recent as we sit and talk.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I'm curious to hear what ends up happening.
I am too.
Yeah.
I'll keep you updated.
Yeah.
At Makin Wellness, our priority is helping you heal and become happy again. We make it easy for you to connect with our exceptional team of therapists right from the comfort and privacy of your device. Not only is this approach more accessible, but it also comes at a much lower cost compared to traditional in-person counseling. We believe no one deserves to suffer in silence and encourage you to work through your challenges so you can live life to the fullest. Call 833-274-HEAL or visit makinwellness.com to get started with online therapy.
The nice thing with that too is, okay, she's now starting to get the experience of how to have a challenging conversation, and it can be very stressful when you go to first do it if you are avoidant and you don't like conflict, or if you don't like having challenging conversations. And then what happens is you now have a piece of evidence that you can look back at and say and see, okay, I've done this before successfully. Perhaps it's possible for me to do it again, and it can really help with, reducing the avoidance, because sometimes people don't communicate because they want to avoid a conflict, and that's not always practical to constantly avoid stuff.
It's not, and the problem will continue to fester and build upon itself if you don't address it and take care of it in the very beginning.
Yeah.
At least when you start to realize that there's an issue at hand that you need to address.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets ugly, and that's what we had talked about when we were kicking off this conversation. Sometimes it's irreparable.
Yeah.
When it gets to a point to where you don't handle something because you don't want to have that difficult conversation because you don't know how that person's going to react.
Yeah.
They might say something you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
But those are all necessary requirements to reaching a resolution.
Exactly.
And if you can't be mature enough to get to that point, it may be easy to say, hard to say. You don't want that relationship to be as powerful and as good as it can be because you're not willing to fight for it. And fight might even be too strong a word, but to just make strides to get the gaps bridged and get people back together again.
Yeah. How about this? Actually, I was just thinking too, with communication, it's so important to share what is on your mind with someone. And even if, let's say, you have a colleague that you've worked with for years, or someone that a best friend that you've had for a long time, if you don't communicate what's on your mind, they're truly not going to know what's happening. Yeah. And then sometimes people assume, like, how do you not know I'm struggling, or how do you not know about X, Y, and Z? And it's because you've never communicated it. So communicating and sharing what's on your mind is also very important, because then you can have a stronger relationship with those in your life. And actually, did you know that Harvard recently did a study, and guess what the number one indicator of a happy life is?
Strong communication.
Very close. Relationships.
Oh,
and
there you go. Yeah.
I
think that's very adjacent.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can't have a good relationship without healthy communication.
Right. Absolutely. I think something we can all do as a first step to make this work in our lives is not accept surface level answers.
Yeah. I'm fine.
Right. and that's where, speaking to someone that might not know what's going on in your life, if you just accept that on the surface, instead of saying, wait a minute, no, something's not right here.
Yeah.
You're not fine. Tell me more. What's happening?
Yeah.
I want to be here to help you. I want to support you.
Yeah.
I can't do that unless you open up and communicate with me. Again, going back to I don't like to keep using my daughter as an example, but I do this on purpose with her. I think it's the podcaster in me, and
Yeah.
she's probably gathered this at this point, but seventh graders, even typical kids in that age range are going to say, like I'll say, how was school? Good.
Oh, yeah.
We're not leaving it at that. And, okay, good. What was good about it? Nothing.
Or like, what did you learn?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's what you said. So now, but
you learned nothing all day in the past.
So I've gotten to the point now where I say, tell me one thing that you've learned today.
Oh.
And it's more open-ended.
Yeah.
Lets her choose, but it gets her talking.
Exactly. The open-ended questions.
Yes.
Force the other person to answer with using more than one word, which is great.
Exactly. And that's, again, getting her in this habit of talking. And I finally told her, I'm doing this for a reason. I want you to continue working on these communication skills because they're going to carry you into your adulthood all the way to the end. Because when you get older, it's going to become even more difficult. But having communication skills are going to help you make life a little bit easier.
Oh, yeah.
And not being afraid to talk about things and have these conversations that even if they are, for the most part, almost in passing, it's just a quick find out about how your day was, but just saying good, nothing, isn't going to fly.
It's definitely not.
You have to think about somebody on the other end. If you really want to know something from somebody and that's the answer they give you, that's going to be very frustrating.
Yeah.
So starting early is a great way. If you have kids,
this
is a good way to get them to open up and continue to build on those communication and verbal skills as you go forward. But even as adults, we can not accept those surface level answers and don't ask surface level questions either.
Yeah.
Dig a little deeper and engage with people.
Yeah.
And it shows that you're not just asking to ask because it could just be like, oh, fine. How's the weather today? Like something stupid if you really wanted it to be. But if you really care about how somebody's doing, take some time to dig a little deeper, find out more. They're going to be more willing to open up as they continue to establish that trust with you. Yeah. And that's when better things are going to come from that relationship.
Oh, for sure. And people love talking about themselves. It's interesting. There's this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah. And the guy who wrote it, he wasn't a psychologist and he wasn't any type of a mental health professional. However, a lot of what he says in his book are really spot on. And one of the things that he talks about is that great conversationists typically ask a lot of great questions and they do a great job of listening. And people love talking to people like that. And they think that you're a great conversationalist when really you were listening. And
you're an active listener.
Exactly. Yeah. Because most people don't really listen. Yeah. They're thinking about what they're going to say next when the other person is talking instead of just listening and paying attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That, I talk a lot about how podcasting skills and what you do in this environment will transfer to other areas of your life. Yeah. Those are the two biggest points. Yeah. Actually listening to somebody and not thinking ahead to what you want to say next. Because that's where I think of on the podcasting level, we are often thinking, oh, well, okay, I've got all these questions in front of me that I have to ask or else this isn't going to be a successful interview. But what ends up happening when you do that is that you completely derail a good organic conversation. Yeah. Think about what you and I are doing right now. Yeah. We're just riffing.
Yeah. We have no outline, you guys. There's no structure. There is no nothing.
And I understand. and that's the thing that, you and I have a good rapport to where we can do this. Yeah. And we're now doing this every season. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah. But I think that overall, when we're speaking with somebody else, if in a real world environment, you're not going to have a script in front of you. But if you're not thinking about, if you are thinking about what you want to say next or what you're going to do next or what's on TV tonight when I get home and not actually listening to what that person has to say, it comes across more vividly than you realize. Oh, yeah. And that person can tell that you're truly not invested in listening to what they have to say. You're just standing there nodding your head and not absorbing it. And when you don't absorb what they're saying, it is hard to have the powerful conversation that could lead to the next big breakthrough. Whatever that may be. Yeah. So actively listening and having that in place with everything you do, it allows great conversations to break out. And like I said before, to me, that's where the power lies. Mm-hmm. If you can have those types of conversations, your relationships are going to be stronger. Yeah. The results that you're looking to achieve in business and in life as a whole, they're going to be in a much better place as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Active listening is such an important skill. And the great thing about skills is that they can be learned.
Absolutely.
So if you're listening and you're like, oh, like, I suck at like listening to people, or I'm always thinking about what I'm going to say. And, you know, can I really do this? You certainly can. It takes time to learn new skills. Yeah. And you most certainly can become a better active listener by practicing being an active listener. This is one of the things actually when I was in school, Jason, like in grad school at Duquesne. I love that university so much. I'm Duquesne.
I'm a Duquesne grad as well.
Yes.
We've talked about that before.
I need to get the ring because I feel like a lot of people, they have the Duquesne ring. And like if you're listening and you live in Pittsburgh and you like went to Duquesne, like go Dukes. But they wear the ring like when they work and like for business meetings and stuff. And I notice it all the time. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll buy one on Amazon.
There you go.
Because they're expensive.
I've never looked. I'm not
so
a ring guy.
They're so expensive. I remember they were like $800 when I graduated.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. They're like a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, they really are.
Those are usually worth $1 million or more, but you know.
Oh, really?
It's all relative.
Today's the draft.
Yesterday's where it started.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Yesterday was. Yeah, Matt was telling me.
Yeah, as we said.
Matt was communicating to me all about it.
And Sara wasn't listening, apparently.
And I was listening. Okay, so something about trading people and Joey Porter's son, which went, and
I don't know if that, I mean, I think the second round, so to give context to those listening to this in audio format, it is a Friday.
Yes.
The draft was on Thursday night.
Yes.
The Steelers drafted a much needed offensive lineman in the first round.
Yeah.
And they had the 32nd pick. I don't know, as we sit in, it's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon as we're recording this. I'm not sure if the draft is going on right now or if it's later on, but I think they were going to be looking at Joey Porter's kid with their second round pick.
Something about that. All I know is like Joey Porter something.
He's a cornerback from Penn State, and the Steelers need him.
Yeah. Well, he went to NA too. We went to the same high school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Also, Christina Aguilera went to North Allegheny.
I did know that.
Yeah. Go Tigers!
There's your history lesson of Pittsburgh, ladies and gentlemen. Or at least Sarah's little corner of Pittsburgh.
That's too funny. Yeah.
What do we got? Final words of wisdom for our great listeners about the power of communication.
So final words of wisdom for me about communication is to consistently work on building your communication skills and to make sure to answer the phone when Jason calls you.
I'll be calling each and every one of you now. So I will add to that you need to look at where you're at now and understand how your communication skills are impacting the people in your life.
Yeah.
And if you do feel that you need to make improvements, don't try to eat the elephant with one bite.
Yeah.
Chunks, baby. Just take small incremental steps towards getting better.
Exactly.
You don't have to try to change everything all at once because that's not going to work.
It's going to overwhelm you.
Just small little efforts each and every day are going to compound and grow into the communicator that you want to be. So put your focus there, and active listening is your friend.
Yes.
And digging deeper and having more compelling, powerful conversations, they're going to help you as well.
Good.
All right. Sarah's stamp of approval.
I was trying to get one good or one fine in there, you know? Too funny. Well, thanks so much for being on Stuff My Therapist Says, Jason.
I'm so glad to once again join you. It's been a great season.
Yes,
Season 3 has been awesome.
Amazing. Our best season yet.
Keeps getting better and better. I'm looking forward to Season 4.
Exactly.
We have to figure out what to talk about for that episode.
We're going to talk about talking.
Yeah, all right. We'll figure that out.
We're gonna see what topics our audience wants to listen to.
Yes.
And work on seeing what experts we can get.
I love it.
Yep.
We'll keep this train rolling down the tracks.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining us.